Welcome, everybody. Welcome back to the Exes Podcast. We've been away for a while. I know there's only one of us. Therese is going to join in just a few moments. But I just want to let people know what's been going on. Like I said, we've been off for a little while, taking a little time off, getting things kind of out of summer mode and into regular life again. And I'm going to assume she's ready for me to bring her right up. I'm going to do it. There you go.
Hello. Sorry about that.
Not a problem. Not a problem. I'm glad you got on. But, you know, every once in a while, this stuff happens, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
darn.
I was just explaining, we've been away for a little bit, taking some time, doing our own kind of personal stuff and, doing all that. Just how you doing? How's everything?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm good.
Okay.
I'm good. I'm looking forward to our new show that we're going to be doing.
I know. Are we doing that now or later?
Well, our next show will be our new show. And let's see if I can give people a little show of what we're going to be doing. That's what it is. It's Coffee and Crime, a podcast with Scott and Therese. And we pretty much moved all in on the crime scene stuff. So the Exes Podcast, although it's been great, it's been fun, and we've done a ton of episodes, we really enjoy the crime stuff, and Therese and I both decided, let's move into it. So that's what we're going to do. So starting either next week or in 2 weeks when we do our next show, we're going to be doing our new podcast.
Yes, we are all in.
All in. And we're going to be doing... we're actually going to be chasing down criminals.
Yeah.
No, this isn't Dog's show.
It shouldn't be terribly hard where you live.
I know, really. I'm looking for new things to follow. Today we're going to be talking about the Sarah Boone case, and we'll get to that in a minute. And a couple of updates on the other ones that we've talked about over the last several months. But I'm looking for some new stuff for us to follow. And it's like every time I see something horrific, it's like Orlando, Florida, Miami, Florida, Fort Lauderdale, Florida, Jacksonville, Florida. What is going on?
That is the criminal state. Hey, it's warm there.
It is warm. It is warm. Now, I came across this list of the most notorious serial killers. And one of them is from Rochester, New York. But it's years ago.
Yeah. Well, I mean, there's been crime here. There was that one kid who killed his father. He drove from college back here to Rochester, killed his dad, and then went back to school. And it was a few years ago, maybe 10. Wow.
Yeah. Well, you don't want a little thing like murder to mess up your GPA. He had to get back to school and take his test. So.
Right.
It's terrible. But, we've talked about it a little bit when it happened, but I've been kind of chewing on it a little bit. We've seen more and more of, and we've seen convictions now of parents being charged when their kids have firearms and commit a crime. Are you on board with that or not, or what do you feel about that?
I think that that's a case by case situation, right? It depends. Like this kid, this most recent kid, they questioned his father about the guns in the house once already, and he said they were all locked up. Well, it comes to find out they were not. So yes, I do think he should be somewhat culpable.
Yeah, I agree. Now, if a kid gets a gun without his parents' knowledge, steals a gun out of the parents, like a locked safe or something, I don't see that. But if it's a situation where you hand somebody who is underage and has displayed issues, you hand somebody a gun like that or give a kid a gun like that a gun, I think you should be held responsible.
Yeah, I agree.
We got Sandy Mom with us saying hi, kids.
Hi.
I'm sure you haven't had anybody call you a kid in a while, huh?
No, not in a while.
By the way, happy birthday. You just celebrated a birthday. We're not talking about that.
Thank you. We are not talking about that. No.
I don't even know. I was going to call you the other day because I can't remember what age I am now. So I just...
Well, I'm not going to tell you today.
All right.
You're going to have to figure it out for yourself.
I know. I think there's, I don't know what it is. Um, anyway, yeah. So moving forward, we're going to be coffee and crime, and that's what we're going to be.
Coffee and crime.
And it's two of your favorite things, right? Do you still watch like the Snapped shows and things like that in the 48 hours?
Well, not so much. I do watch Dateline. I'll put on some reruns of that, and occasionally 2020 seems to have some pretty good stories, but not as much as I used to because I'm listening to like the YouTubers all the time, trying to get caught up on those. And then I do occasionally watch like a real show once in a great while.
So also very exciting is when we start our new show. Our show will also be available on Apple Podcast, iTunes, and Amazon Podcasts, and all of the podcast platforms. Our show will be available on that as well.
Oh, cool.
So people can listen to us there. They can watch us on YouTube or on Facebook, or they can obviously go there and watch it. So just moving on up. That's what we're going to do. We're going all in on crime. And I think we're going to stick to every other week. Is that correct?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
Although if something good happens next week, we're going to have to pop on for a quick one.
Oh, absolutely. Well, because the crazy person we're going to be talking about today goes to trial on, I believe, Monday.
Is that the 7th?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
2 days away.
And, do you want to give us the rundown on this loop job?
This loop job, Sarah Boone. She is accused, allegedly, of zipping her boyfriend in a suitcase during a game of hide and seek and leaving him there until he died. Basically, is the story.
Yeah.
Right.
Now, accused, but she videotaped part of this. So.
Well, yes, she videotaped herself mocking him and torturing him, basically, as he's begging to get out.
Yes.
And then claims that she went upstairs and fell asleep and forgot he was in there.
Right, exactly. I'm trying to remember. I'm trying to find the date when this happened.
It was like 4 years ago.
Yeah, you know what? I've got the trial date and I've got everything else. But it's been a couple of years.
It's been like 4, yeah.
She has. So before we get into what's going on with the actual crime itself, again, lots. This is like a Samsonite suitcase, like a roller bag, but it's not carry-on. But obviously, it's a sizable suitcase. Although the gentleman, I assume it's pronounced Jorge, but it could be George. I don't know which way they say his name.
She calls him George. So.
Okay. So because it's Jorge Torres, Jr., George Jr., was not a very large man. So he could fit into this suitcase. But, left him in there until he died. So, first of all, the whole thing was a game of hide and seek. That's what she's saying.
That's what she's saying, yes.
Now, I played hide and seek with people. Have you played hide and seek before, Therese? You have.
Yeah.
I don't think that's something we ever played. We played Monopoly. We played other games. We never played hide and seek.
No.
But you don't help the person hide when you're playing hide and seek.
No. What's the point? You know where they are.
Yeah. That's called shoving somebody in a suitcase. I mean, there's no other term for it. Called, you could be. We're playing JetBlue baggage handler. I don't know what you're playing, but it's not hide and seek.
That may have been a better argument. Playing some like role play.
Now, exactly.
Right.
But she said, outright that they were drunk.
Well, in her first interviews, she would not say she was drunk because they said to her, "Oh, so you went upstairs and passed out?" And she's like, "No, I didn't pass out. I don't like to get drunk. I don't like to be out of control. I fell asleep." So she adamantly said that.
Yes. Later on, she said we were drinking Chardonnay. But she said we were painting pictures, we were doing puzzles together, and then we had she actually gave the name Woodbridge Chardonnay, which back to my old drinking days was not a horrible wine. It was not. But I was always responsible. I never drank around suitcases, so this should never happen to me. But here's the thing: this is in her interview in the interview room. Now, there's some contention there too, which we'll get to. But like you said, she denied a lot of things right after the fact.
Yes.
Immediately afterwards, she denied that she was drunk. She denied that she passed out. She was outside the house talking about how she was being abused by this guy. And she was almost trying to create, now there's video footage of her outside this house saying, he abuses me and stuff, almost like she was going to build a self-defense thing. But I've never heard of I've heard of self-defense with a gun, with a knife, with a baseball bat, but I've never heard of it with a piece of Samsonite. I've never heard of it. So this girl was wackadoo right from the start.
Yeah.
Truth is, we don't know, if this was an abusive relationship. I know that they had problems and they broke up and got together a lot, apparently. You heard things?
Yeah, but they both actually had been arrested for domestic violence. Both of them. They were never found guilty. The charges were always dropped beforehand. But it was on both sides. It was her and it was him. So it wasn't a good relationship. It was a toxic relationship, let's say.
I was under the impression, Sandy Mom saying, I never heard of this crazy woman. Her name is Sarah Boone. Boone.
Orlando, Florida.
Yeah. If you Google it, you can get the whole story on, there's Court TV and Dateline all have stuff on YouTube about her. So you can look it up. And it's Orlando. Yeah, of course,
Orlando.
Well, living that close to Disney World, I guess it made her really effing goofy, But this woman's nuts. He suffocates.
Well, I want to say she is, but she isn't, right? She's buku, but she also has enough knowledge and wherewithal to lie about certain things.
Yeah, I mean, she's not. I mean, she's. If you happen to be watching on video, there's a picture of her there from Court TV. But she does not look like a very pleasant human being. I mean, but she's sitting in court, so I guess how do you look pleasant?
That's probably when the prosecution was coming up to talk to her.
And just to give people a little something to look at, this is the suitcase that he was zipped up in. A shame because it's probably not usable now, but it's a good-looking suitcase. It's a good suitcase. I always look for good suitcases with the traveling and stuff.
Oh my God.
But anyway, yeah, you're right. She's crazy, but she's not like insane where she can't stand trial. I agree with that.
Yeah.
She knows what she did was wrong, or else she wouldn't have changed her stories and lied about certain things.
Right. And the morning that she remembered that he was in the suitcase, right? She took him out of the suitcase. She then called her ex-husband, who lives down the road, told him George was dead, claimed she did CPR, also had a cigarette going when the police got there on the back porch, and had an open Dr. Pepper that she was very concerned about getting back once the police locked her out of her house. So, and then, after her ex-husband got there, that's when she called 911.
All right, so she didn't call 911. As a matter of fact, this happened late in the evening, midnight, 1 o'clock in the morning, something like that. 12:30 a.m.
The suitcase?
At 12:30 a.m., she went upstairs. So she put him in the suitcase before 12:30 a.m. So probably around midnight, she put him in the suitcase. There's video footage of her sitting there. She filmed this with her own freaking phone of him crying out for help, saying, "Let me out, I can't breathe." and her making comments like, now you know what it feels to be smothered, or now you deserve this, and then laughing at him and different things like that. Lots of unkind comments.
Maybe you should shut the F up.
Maybe you shouldn't have filmed it. Guys, just because you have cameras on your phones doesn't mean you should film yourself committing crimes. I'm just telling you. Although it's entertaining for us.
Now, see, in that instance, I'm going to have to say when she handed over her phone, I don't think she had any recollection that she had done that. I think that she was that drunk, but she would not admit that. She may stand a better chance if she said she was drunk, she was out of control, she doesn't remember how it happened, why it happened.
I agree with you 1,000%. I think that would have been the best defense or the best way to go about it. We're both drunk. We're both doing stupid stuff, and I barely remember anything. And that's all. That would have been a great defense. But she started talking all these different things. So Sandy said he must have been nuts to climb into that suitcase. Yes. Just so you get a feel for this guy, this is what he looked like prior to being shipped FedEx there. He does not look like, I don't know. He doesn't look like a very sane person either. So, you put these two together and, you got something special going there. So, so anyway, she goes to bed at 12:30. She wakes up in the morning.
Well, not in the morning. Like
late.
Yeah. Like noon.
She says she woke up and then she didn't even go downstairs until 11. It was 11 a.m. She went downstairs.
I think it was like noon. Because her ex-husband was still trying to call her at like 11:49.
See? Now, her story, she says it was 11, but that could have been just a miscalculation in the timing. But anyway, it doesn't matter. She stayed in bed, assuming he got out and was... Apparently, she says, I thought he was out and downstairs on the computer looking for a job. And she said she finally went downstairs around 11 a.m., probably could be off by a little bit of time, and could not find her boyfriend anywhere. She freaked out and remembered the last time she saw George was when she zipped him in the suitcase. Well, that's cool. When you lose something, it's nice to have that recollection. You know exactly where you left it.
Yeah, right.
Like, where's my boyfriend? Oh, that's right.
I put him
I left him in the American Tourister out on the porch, right? It's just, it's so insane. And then her behavior became more and more bizarre as time went on. I think somebody should have told her to shut your mouth.
Yeah. Somebody should have told. Well, they told her that she has the right to remain silent.
Yes. Now, we're going to get into another problem here with her new lawyer. She's got a lawyer. Okay?
Which is number what?
Number 9. 9.
I would say 10 because she was her own lawyer for a little while.
Okay, so she fired herself even. All the voices in her head, they couldn't agree on what to do.
Probably not.
So being in Florida, they got a great lawyer, an attorney named James Owens, decided to take the case. If we can remember back to one of the last shows we did before we went on hiatus, she had actually made a little poster and hung it up in the courthouse. Do you want to be a part of a life-changing case? And she made this poster that was so batshit crazy. Somebody actually listened to it and they responded. So this James Owen is now her lawyer. The judge is done with her. I have a feeling those other 8 lawyers told her to shut up and she wouldn't. And
probably.
But they all had like different reasons for quitting.
Well, in all honesty, I think about half of them, about 3 or 4 actually did have like an interference, right? Where they couldn't. They had either represented George in one of his cases or it was a conflict with their schedule. They had legitimate reasons. Okay. But the last 4, were irreconcilable differences.
Well, if she's not going to cooperate in her own defense, you cannot mount a defense, and the lawyers That's really the bottom line. You're not allowed to drop a client because you decide she's crazy and that she's guilty. You're not allowed to drop them for that reason. No. Although I think if we actually, put pen to paper and wanted to tell the truth, that would be the reason they quit, I think.
Maybe.
She was not going to help.
Right. They can't say why they.
No, they can't.
No, they can't. That's attorney-client privilege.
So, again, this happened a couple years ago. She gets interrogated. And what happens is in the interrogation room, and it was several hours, not like a super marathon session like you see with some killers, where it goes like, a day and a half in the interrogation. This was several hours, though. And apparently now they were in court the other day trying to get ahead because the case starts on Monday, trying to get ahead of this thing. They wanted to have the confession and the interview. Not the confession. She didn't confess. They wanted the interview to be left out. They wanted that to be thrown out because they did not read the Miranda rights properly.
Wow.
Did you hear that?
I heard that. Yes. I was just updating myself on. I listened to it yesterday, but I also updated myself a little bit right before I got on. Yeah.
Apparently there's a sentence on the Miranda rights that weren't always traditionally on the Miranda rights. Obviously you say things like, if you do not have a lawyer, one will be appointed to you. You have the right to remain silent, the whole thing they do. But then at the end, they're supposed to say that having these rights in mind, do you wish to talk to investigators now or talk to us now? You're supposed to say that line. You're supposed to ask them, now that you know those are your rights, do you want to talk to us? They've never read that line. So now, but the judge and the prosecutor says that was not done with any ill intent, and it did not change the outcome of any of the conversations, they believe. What do you think?
I don't believe that matters. There's no case law saying that very last line has to be read. There's no, he could not find a case where this was brought in and used against the police, right? They said that the important things are you have the right to remain silent. If you give up that right, your words can be used against you. You have a right to an attorney if you cannot afford one, blah, blah, blah. Do you understand these rights?
And they did say all that.
Yes. And so that is really what the Miranda law is, right. Is that you have to get understanding of all those rights.
And she signed the paper that says the rights that were read to her and she understands them. She signed the paper.
She signed the paper, and that last question was on that paper that she signed. It was not on the detective's card that she had. She had an old card or whatever.
Yes.
She's been there for like 12 years, and she didn't have the updated one. But it was on the paper that Sarah signed. So if Sarah didn't read it, that's on Sarah. But it was there.
Yeah, everybody who watches these cop shows on TV and these movies, and you see the cops while the client, it's not a client, while the suspect is down on the ground, they're trying to cuff them, and then they just start rambling off the rights. These are your Miranda rights. That's not what happens. They pull this card out every time because this means everything. If they don't say it, they got a problem. So they do it. They pull out the card every time, and some of the cards were not updated, and that's what
right.
It was. But it was simply her signing that paper is her acknowledgement that she understands she doesn't have to talk. And so I agree with you. So here's why the lawyers quit. We've got a comment here. They quit because she started walking into the courthouse dragging a Samsonite.
That's pretty funny.
Afraid.
And that's pretty funny.
They were afraid they were going to be the next piece of luggage.
Right.
So while they're in this pre-trial hearing about this interview and dealing with a few other extraneous stuff, little tiny things, there was one thing that they really felt important to add that they wanted to ask for, which was she wanted to have professional hair and makeup done prior to each court date.
Yeah.
Professional hair and makeup.
Yeah. Starting with jury selection.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now they asked that she not be handcuffed during the trial.
Yeah, I mean, that makes sense.
You asked that. Unless it's although somebody died, she's not necessarily a violent criminal. She's a criminal. She's not proven yet, but she killed somebody, but she's not a violent. So I got no problem with taking the handcuffs off, letting her keep notes and do stuff. Fine. But hair and makeup?
Yeah. I mean, look, I understand the whole wearing street clothes, being presentable for court. That's just because if you come in your jail uniform, that just kind of puts it in the juror's subconscious mind that you're a criminal, right? Even if they don't mean to, it does. So yes, I understand that. But professional hair and makeup that's a stretch for someone that's in jail and has been in jail for 4 years.
What's she gonna do? What's she gonna do? Get on the stand and say, "I'm ready for my close up."
Oh my gosh! And this is just being petty, but for me, from all of the videos I've seen her in, she doesn't really appear to be the type of person that does her hair and makeup every single day.
No.
I mean, even like outside of the house and stuff, right? The girl was talking on all these body cams, no bra. Her hair was like a mess. And even when she went down to the police station, she wasn't made up. She wasn't, I guess your boyfriend died the night before. Maybe I wouldn't put on makeup either, but she just doesn't strike me as the type of person that on a regular basis dolls herself up.
Well, I think given the pattern of behavior we see with her, I think this is more about I want to look good for the cameras.
Yeah.
And TV.
Yeah.
And, Court TV is going to follow this case. Why? She killed him with a freaking suitcase. That's why. They want to follow this one. This is a good one. Now, at the end of the day, the judge says absolutely not. We're not bringing in, hair cuttery to do her hair, and we're not bringing in, Avon to do her makeup. But
he got a letter.
Well, the lawyer said he has a couple of assistants, female assistants, that will do her makeup if they can have a private room to do it in somewhere. And the judge is like, no. When you come into court, you can fix her up all you want, but when court starts, court starts. So, I agree with you though about jumpsuits and prison outfits. I don't think for any jury cases somebody should show up in a prison uniform. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, I agree with that. I don't. Yeah, they do try, and they bring in the defendants. They bring them in before the jury comes in. So if they do have leg shackles, they're all like locked to the floor and covered up, and so that the jury doesn't witness all of that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. You don't want them dragging him in there like he's Hannibal Lecter, all, and saying, and then his lawyer saying he's a nice guy,
I know, right?
A lot of these guys, you see some other killers out there and they got the, kill tattooed across their forehead. I'm like, well, dude, the orange jumpsuit is not going to help you. I'm sorry. It's just, you don't need a suit. But I agree with the idea of having to wear street clothes, because the minute I see somebody with a red orange jumpsuit or the white jumpsuit or the striped jumpsuit, in handcuffs, the minute I see that, I'm thinking they're a criminal.
Yeah.
And I'm not being prejudiced against it. It's just, it's what comes to mind.
Yeah.
So,
right. You say, "Ooh, I wonder what they did."
Yeah.
Because we used to have patients come in the hospital that were in custody, and they would have to come in with the guards and the handcuff on the stretcher and all of that. And, curiosity, you always wonder, I wonder what he's in jail for, right?
Have you ever?
Curious.
Did you ever walk up and ask any of them?
No, I just go to the chart and look it up.
Oh, okay.
No, I'm not going to ask them. No.
Before I give you this aspirin, did you kill people or did you steal something?
They're all innocent anyways.
Oh, yeah, that's true. That's true. So this is where we're at. They're going to start the trial. I have no idea what kind of defense they're going to mount. I don't believe they're going to go with insanity.
No, they're going with self-defense and domestic violence, whatever. Oh, battered wife syndrome.
Okay. All right. I just picked up on that. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
The lawyer claimed that she suffered from battered spouse syndrome and towards that a history of domestic violence. Prosecutors at pretrial say they plan to file a motion to bar the attorney from using that argument. Apparently they do not believe that there's any basis for that argument.
Well, I think that they made some points today, right? Because today is a different story from what her interviews have said before. And even they had her evaluated with somebody, I guess, in the last few days where everybody was present. Her lawyer, the prosecutors, everyone was present. And the statements that she gave then even differed from what they were saying today on the stand. And so he said, do you realize that I can, if you come on the stand, I can cross-examine you according to these two different stories that you're now telling? And she said, yes. And he said, so having this interview thrown out would benefit you. And she said, of course. So, because they're saying, if it's self-defense and you say that you're a battered wife syndrome, blah, blah, blah. So you leave this guy in a suitcase and he's begging you to get out. So they're going to try and say that she was afraid to let him out, right? Because of what he would do. He would be mad at her. But also, he's locked in a suitcase. She could have left. She could have called 911 and left. She could have gone over to her ex-husband and had him let him out, who's about 3 times the guy's size.
Yeah.
If she was really afraid, there was nothing holding her to that townhouse that night.
If this was battered spouse syndrome, if this was fear, if this was even self-defense against future beatings, if you want to call it, whatever it might be, once he's locked in his suitcase, you're absolutely right. She's free.
Yeah.
If she left the house and ran away, that would make sense.
Yeah. Even if she didn't let anyone know to let him out and he did still pass away, that still would be a better defense because that would prove that she was scared, right?
Well, listen, once I locked him in the luggage, I was comfortable enough to go take a nap. If you're that terrified, you don't do that. You don't go to sleep.
Right.
Now we've got, they will blame the suitcase maker for not having warning labels. Oh, perfect.
I bet you there's going to be warning labels on future luggage.
Do not play hide and seek with Samsung.
Oh my gosh. Do not lock a person in a suitcase.
Oh my God. That's crazy. But, she's all over the place. She's saying that she wasn't drunk. She's saying that she passed out, but she didn't pass out. She says her quote was, I didn't understand the monumental amount of people that were at the crime scene, what they were doing. I was worried about my dogs. I was worried about my son. I was in shock. I was traumatized. I was hungover. I believe I was still intoxicated to a degree.
That's what she said today. That's what she said today or yesterday at her.
Yesterday. That was yesterday.
Yeah.
So, yeah. But anyway, it doesn't seem like that there's going to be any suppression of the interview. She's just going to have to go to trial. And again, it's really up in the air what story they're going to go with at this point. They can't be all over the place now. This guy, James Owens, the lawyer, he decided to take this case because of that handwritten poster on the wall that she made to look for a lawyer who wants to be a part of something wonderful, she said. Oh my God, really?
Apparently he does.
So she faces a life sentence if convicted of second-degree murder. And I guess they're going with second degree because it wasn't. He died as a result of her actions, not by her hand. So I guess it's different. I don't know how that works.
I guess they're saying it's not. They don't believe it was premeditated. That they don't believe. They don't believe that she planned this.
Well, I don't know. Why was that suitcase in the middle of the living room to begin with?
I don't think it was. I think it was upstairs, and because there is evidence that they heard thump, thump, thump. So, and there is evidence that he sustained some injuries either before or after he was in that suitcase. So they think she threw him, pushed him down the stairs. Yeah. Don't laugh. That's not nice.
You're laughing now too. It's not bad enough. It's not bad enough. But what a great commercial for a suitcase company. Put your spouse in a suitcase, push them down the stairs, and it didn't bust open. The lock was still good. The zipper was still good. There was no tears in the suitcase. Buy this suitcase. This is what a great thing. Samsonite used to have the old commercial of a gorilla tossing the luggage around. Do you remember that?
Oh yeah.
Well, this is the new version. Welcome to the new world.
Oh my goodness.
So we're going to let you know what's going on with that. And that trial starts Monday, and Therese and I will figure out our schedule sometime over the weekend or something, and then we'll decide if we're going to start next week or the week after with Coffee and Crime. I still got to do a little work on the intro and stuff, but that's going to be us. And I'm getting some T-shirts made up for us so we can be professional. And
awesome.
Oh yeah, we're going to be good to go. This is going to be good.
Oh, good.
Good. And you know what? There are podcasters out there that do a lot of crime stuff, and they spend that's their job. They spend all their time, and they go to the cases, and they go to the courts, and they go here, and they go to. Therese and I, we both work all the time. We're both busy, but we're going to put together as much information as we can. We're going to look at it from a little bit of a lighter side, but we also want your opinions and stuff too.
Yeah, for sure.
We want to know what you're thinking. Some of the other cases, the Kroberger case, the college town murders where the 4 college students were killed. Couple of things happened there. They demolished that house, by the way. Did you know that? They tore it down.
Yeah, I think I heard that.
Yeah. Once they were done getting they didn't want that house to be there anymore. He did get to change venues.
Mm-hmm.
So I believe it's 70 miles away in Boise is where they're going to have the trial.
Yeah. I think I kind of agree with that, honestly.
I agree with it only because 80% of that town was involved in the school that these kids went to.
Yes.
And that's pretty much it. Was when they say college town, I mean, it's like you go to like Syracuse University and a small part of the city is involved in what the school does. But in these kind of places, these towns are almost built around these colleges. And
yes.
So you can't get somebody who doesn't know somebody who's in that college or does. So going over to Boise, which is still not a huge city, but it's a very large city, is a good place to do it. I have no problem with that.
Yeah. I think that's a good call. And plus, probably 65% of the population in that college town are students. So they're not always going to be there.
We got to love the logo for our new show.
I think, yeah.
We'll get her a shirt too. Yeah, you're right. So they're all involved, but getting that moved made sense. That case will start, I believe, in 2025.
Yeah, it's going to be a while.
I believe they're trying to speed it up, but now that they move venues, it's got to be assigned to a new judge, then it's got to be put on the docket, and so.
Yeah, that's interesting too, because you can elect to stay with your case and just kind of, use their court. But this judge elected to have a new judge take over. He's like, oh, you can have it.
Yeah.
I don't want this.
He didn't want any piece of this. Now, I did read something interesting today, and this is a teaser. This is a cliffhanger, and I'm sorry I don't know what it is, but they said the defense is going to introduce an alibi. They will not, obviously, they're not going to tell anybody right now what it is, but they said they have what they claim to be an ironclad alibi.
Okay.
So, again, I have no idea. There are no witnesses that saw him do the murders. The person who did see somebody go through the house did not see who it was. So there's no real witnesses. And a lot of what they did was based on where his car was and pinging his cell phone. Mm-hmm. But cell phones, I mean, you could leave your phone at home. You could leave your phone somewhere else. You could do a lot of different things. But
his problem is that it was pinging right around the house.
Well,
and the car was seen going around the whole
I know
area. I mean, it's not looking good. Let's face it.
It's not looking good.
Yeah.
But I'm very interested to see what kind of alibi they think they can put up against that. Because the car and the phone pinging, at the end of the day, is still circumstantial evidence.
Yeah.
You know, without a bloody fingerprint on one of the bodies or on a murder weapon that's left at the scene, there's a lot of circumstance.
Well, they do have a fingerprint, don't they? On the knife sheath?
That I don't know. But
Yeah.
where was the sheath left?
Found under one of the female's bodies.
That's right. I'll have to look that up to see if
I don't know if it's DNA or if it's a fingerprint, but they have something on that.
Okay. All right. Well, you know, that can be explained. I don't know how.
Okay.
I'd love to see him do it.
Okay. He had a date with her earlier that night and just happened to leave the cover to his knife there under her.
Listen, you go on a date with somebody, you bring them chocolates, flowers, or a knife sheath. You bring them something. The other case that we will be following on Coffee and Crime, certainly the Daybell Vallow case. We are not letting this one go until it's completely done, because it is so horrific. But we're looking at February, I think, right?
I think so, yeah. Yeah, they pushed that back again. They demolished that house also.
Which house?
Chad Daybell's house.
Oh, where his wife died.
Well,
where the kids were buried.
Yeah, somebody. Well, you know how his lawyer was given the deed to the house. Right. Okay, so he sold the house. He sold it to a nonprofit company who is going to do something nice in that lot. They don't know they don't know exactly what it's going to be yet, but it's going to be like something to honor the victims. They didn't want that house to remain there with all of those sad memories. So they tore down the house, the chicken coop, the barn, all the sheds, the tree that JJ was buried under. They spoke with the family. The family said, cut it down.
Jeez.
So that's all gone now.
And so much destruction. If you're not familiar with the case, Lori Vallow married Chad Daybell. The two of them, they killed Daybell's wife. She killed her husband. They killed the two kids. A lot of people died in this. Plus, there's peripheral death all around. The brother attempts on the nephew's life. A lot of things happening in this case. Right now, they've both been convicted of the murders of the two children and the murders. One got murder, one got conspiracy to commit murder of Tammy Daybell, Chad's wife. So there's already that, but there's still two more charges, or there's a bunch of charges, but two major charges left for Lori to face, which is the planned murder of her husband, her estranged husband, and the attempted murder of her nephew. I think is the nephew, right? Or
her nephew-in-law. Yeah, it was
nephew-in-law, niece's husband.
Yeah,
niece's husband. So a lot of that still being unpacked. No death penalties anywhere, right?
Yeah. Did
Chad get death penalty?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah. Look it up.
That's right. He did. That's right. He did. He did.
He is appealing. He is appealing, of course, but he did get the death penalty, I believe. Yeah, she got hers thrown out. They didn't go for the death penalty on her.
Now, so we're going to be following that, and that's a big case, and we'll be doing special shows on that. The case that I've kind of found very, very interesting was the case of what's her frickin' name now?
Yeah.
Oh, Corey Rikins.
Oh, Corey Richins.
It's Richins or Rikins?
I think it's Richins. I think is what most people are saying.
Yeah, Corey Richins is to stand trial for murder and her husband's poisoning. A Utah mother of three. She killed her husband, then wrote a children's book about, is daddy still there? I believe it's called Are You There? But it was about how children can deal with death. So she killed her husband, then wrote a book about it, but a children's book. This is sick. This is sick on insane levels. Mm-hmm. She killed him with fentanyl.
No. Yes.
And it turns out now they have not only did she poison a drink that he had and killed him, but now they have evidence that a month earlier on Valentine's Day, she put fentanyl in his sandwich and tried to kill him. But it didn't work. Because bologna offsets fentanyl. I guess. I don't know.
Well, apparently she didn't have enough, so she had to up that ante.
Yeah, the prosecutors are saying she killed her husband for a financial gain. They were deeply in debt, and she was planning a future with a man she had been having an affair with.
Yeah.
Why is there always an affair involved? Can't you just kill somebody and just not have the other stuff?
I know, but do you know who the affair was with?
No.
Like a handyman.
Oh, that is so cliche.
I mean, but like her husband was like successful. He had a great business, like a masonry business. His family was, I mean, and you're gonna go off with a handyman that worked at your houses that you were in debt from buying that you couldn't flip.
That is just so. His name was probably Bert or something, Bert the handyman came over and she fell in love. She faces 11 charges, including attempted murder, multiple counts of forgery. She did other stuff after this death. She manipulated stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Intent to distribute a controlled substance. Now, if you buy fentanyl just to poison one person, is that really distributing? I don't know.
You distribute it to that one person.
That's true. Mortgage fraud, insurance fraud,
mm-hmm.
and then of course murder.
I also think she forged a life insurance policy. He had a substantial life insurance policy, but
the insurance.
Yeah, she also forged one. Yeah,
that's the insurance fraud. So that's what we have. I do have the date. Going back to the College Town murders, that will go to court in June of 2025.
That's
now that it's been moved to Boise, it's going to be almost another year before we see any resolve to this. So we're going to follow the Corey Rikens case. They're going to start jury selection in April of 2025. In March of 2022, and it takes. Listen, I don't know why it takes 3 years for something to go to trial. I don't understand that. Somewhere it says in our Constitution or in our Bill of Rights that we have a right to a speedy trial.
Mm-hmm.
Is 3 years speedy to you?
Well, they can waive that right, though, right?
They can waive that right.
They can waive that right, as Chad Daybell did, and Lori did not, and that's how they got separated.
Oh, okay. Okay. Well, I would think if I was a murderer, which I am not, I'm going to put it out there. I am not. I would think I'd want faster rather than slower.
I would think so too.
Because slower means building more of a case, more evidence. But it just seems really ridiculous that we're talking about these things. And it's like this is something that happened. Families are sitting there waiting for resolve. Let's not forget the people who are left behind here.
Yeah.
Think about the Lori Vallow and Chad Daybell that killed these two kids, and they got the grandparents who have been hanging on a thread for almost 4 years now.
Yeah. Yeah. They've got that. I mean, and if you look at the whole family, even Lori has family. As crazy as her family is, she does have family members that have been affected by this, right? They lost their grandchildren. They lost their nieces and nephew. There's and then Charles, her husband, he had an ex-wife and 2 other kids from that marriage. I mean, there's so many people that have been affected.
Absolutely. And the only reason Lori's got any family left is because she's been locked up and hasn't had a chance to kill him yet. Probably. I'm sure they were on the list.
Oh, I'm sure a couple of them were.
Oh. So anyway, so that's where we're at, guys. we went through our hour pretty quickly here.
Yeah.
Coming up to the end of it, I want to remind everybody that while we appreciate anyone out there who's been watching, I know sometimes a lot of you guys don't watch live. A lot of you guys watch the replays and you leave comments, and we appreciate you when you watch the replays. A lot of you following the Exes Podcast. The Exes Podcast is now X'd. We are done. I think we've moved to the point where now we don't have to talk about the X part. We can just talk about our friendship now. But more importantly, we can talk about killers and crime and murder and mayhem. And Therese will look at it from up at the top of the world in Rochester, and I will sit down here in Florida amidst all the serial killers.
That's right. You better get some. You better get some security cameras around there.
I've got a cat, which is a security cat.
Okay.
And, this cat is great at stopping criminals. If it does what it does to me, which is every time I turn around, it's right there, and I almost fall down over it. So if that's what it does, but yeah. So we're going to be talking about that stuff, and it will be our new show, Coffee and Crime, a podcast with Scott and Therese, and you're full approval of the logo and the whole thing, right?
Full approval. Yes, I like it.
Perfect.
Good job.
Thank you. And that's what we do. That's what we do.
Oh, that's what you do.
And you out there, if you've got a case, if you see something strange, listen, we can talk about bank robberies. We can talk about somebody took out a gun and shot their husband or shot their wife. We can talk about that. But if you got an unusual case, we try to follow these cases that just have a little bit of something's not quite right. We'd like, maybe that comes off as sounding kind of sick, does it?
A little, but that's all right. It's all right. No. I can roll with it.
It's all right. Everyday murders do not end up on Dateline. They need spectacular stuff.
That's right.
And by the way, I thought I was watching Dateline for to watch a case or something, and I actually got that guy who catches the pedophiles, Chris something, or you know who I'm talking about? They would trap people with they'd be online chatting with a 13-year-old girl.
Oh.
And then when the guy shows up at the house,
yeah.
Then this guy comes walking out and he just starts saying, "Why are you here?" And every one of them have the same answer. I was just worried about her. That's what you do, is when you got a 13-year-old girl propositioning you, you go to her house because you're worried about her. You didn't call anybody. You didn't tell anybody. You didn't do no.
Yeah.
And they always bring pizza or snacks. They always bring pizza. What is it with pizza? Anyway, so I got a load of that, and that was just, I don't want to report on those because it just creeps me out too much, and I don't understand it, I guess.
Yeah.
Not that I understand, suitcase killing, but I'm willing to learn.
It does make for an interesting story.
Yes, it does. It does. So we will let you know. We'll put the ad out. Therese, any final thoughts on this case with Sarah Boone? What are you expecting? Something quick? Are you expecting this to be drug out? What are you thinking?
I'm expecting it's going to be pretty quick. I really don't think. I mean, I think the defense is trying. He's trying. He's throwing things at the wall and see what he can get away with. But once the prosecution puts their case on, I don't think it's going to take that long. Maybe a week, maybe 2.
I think that, what did I say? They were going with a second-degree murder?
Yeah.
I think even with the interview, even with the video of the suitcase and her talking to it, because of the drunkenness and because it's such a strange thing, she didn't strangle him. She didn't put a pillow over his head. She put him in a suitcase, which you and I would never think you could suffocate in a suitcase. I wouldn't think that.
I wouldn't think to get in a suitcase.
Yeah.
If you dared me to get in a suitcase, I'd be like, yeah, no, not happening.
Listen, I would struggle to get in a steamer trunk. All right. Forget a suitcase. All right. But I have a feeling, I think it's going to go fairly quickly because none of this is going to get thrown out. You're right. It's not going to they're not going to throw out the interview. They're not going to throw out the video. I think it's going to fairly quickly, but I think it's going to be a problem with the jury that it's second-degree murder and not manslaughter.
I don't think it's going to be a problem.
You think they'll throw it at her?
Mm-hmm.
I think the amount of alcohol might change that, though. She was obviously drunk in the video. Obviously.
But she also denied that the next morning.
Well, that's where it's like, okay. Yeah, it is very strange.
Mm-hmm.
Can you prove that she had any expectation that he was going to die?
So apparently she doesn't mind being labeled a murderer, but she doesn't want to be labeled a drunk.
More importantly,
right? That's what I get from that.
I'll be a murderer. I don't want to be a drunk, and God forbid I should show up without my hair done and makeup.
My hair did. I know. I think it's gonna be guilty. I don't think it's gonna be a problem.
All right. Let's see.
What do you think?
Murder most foul, LOL.
Mm-hmm.
I think it'll be guilty, but I think they're going to struggle for murder. Like I said, it may be a case because of the involvement of alcohol and because there's no reasonable expectation that he's going to die in that suitcase. I'm not sure I think they might have been better with going first-degree manslaughter.
Except for the fact that he was telling her he could not breathe.
Yes, but that's...
Babe, I can't breathe is what he said.
Yes, but what did he really mean? We don't know.
I mean, you can't get much clearer than I can't breathe.
Okay, I'm going to give you that one. You won that argument. That's good.
Yay.
That is a good one.
I don't think they have a choice of another charge, right? I mean, they went with second degree. They can't. The jury can't decide on. They have to either do guilty or not guilty.
Yeah, but
or hung.
No, you can go with a decision. There's rare cases where you can have we want this or this. We want one.
But that's not what she's charged with.
But that's
she has to be charged with it.
Exactly. Right now, she is charged. It's second degree. You cannot charge her with anything but second degree.
Right. That's what the indictment is for.
Yeah. And if they can prove that she pushed them down the steps, that's going to help too, by the way.
Yes.
If they could prove that. But Jorge never said, hey, you pushed me down the steps and I can't breathe. He never said that, so we don't know. But
maybe the poor guy didn't know that he went tumbling down the steps.
That's true.
I do think that, okay, I think one of the only ways this could happen is, yes, she kind of like triple dared him to get in, right? I bet you can't fit. Let's try it out.
Yeah.
Or maybe he suggested it, whichever. He had to have probably gotten in there voluntarily because you can't like shove a person in there.
No, especially these two because they do have a violent past and he would have fought back.
Yes. But there is a bat in question. And there is blunt force trauma to the back of his head. So I think she knocked him out as he was getting in the suitcase.
Wow.
And then when he was waking up and realizing he can't get out, he can't breathe, he can't. That's the only scenario I can really think of
I hit him with that, knocked him out, put him in a suitcase, threw him down the stairs, put him in the living room, sat down, had some Chardonnay, and talked to him. What a great date. What a great date. You couldn't plan that.
I know.
You couldn't plan that. All right. Well, that's it for the show. I want to thank everybody. If you joined in, whether you joined in live or you're watching from a recording or whatever you're doing, please do me a favor. Like the channel, like the show, share your comments with us so that we know what you guys think about it. And again, looking forward to seeing you all on our new show, Coffee and Crime with Scott and Therese, and we will be bringing that to you sometime in the next between now and 2 weeks. Sometime in there we're going to be starting up. So
sounds good.
All right, everybody out there, thank you. Take care of each other. Be nice. I know it's political season. Everybody's saying shit to each other. They're being mean. Just be nice to each other. Politics will always work themselves out, but just be nice. We'll catch you next time.
Bye.
Bye-bye.